Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. This is one of my favorite videos of the year to do. This is where we predict the trends for 2024. I've done this the last several years, and I would say generally I'm pretty close to being spot on with those trends, but 2023 was not that good. So I'm going to go back, give you a quick summary of my 2023 trends, whether I kind of got it right or kind of got it wrong, and what I think the 2024 trends are going to be. I do personally feel like it can be very valuable as an angler to stay on top of these trends because if you are, sometimes you can use it to your advantage. Whether that's a specific fishing bait, you can be one of the first ones to use it, or maybe it's just being aware of what's going on in the industry so that you can take advantage of that and save a few dollars. So if you're aware of some of these trends, a lot of times it really does come out to your advantage. So let's touch base on 2023. So I've got them written down here. Some of the trends that I had predicted for 2023. The first one was that lizard style baits would make a comeback. And I kind of feel like I got this half right and half wrong. I do believe a lot of companies came out with new versions of lizards. There's a bunch of new style of lizards on the market. Now, I do feel like I also got that wrong though, because I don't know of anybody really using them. You know, lizards are great baits. They do generally catch a lot of fish. But when it comes to those new baits, I think the manufacturers tried to bring back the lizard. I don't think the end user, us, the buyers, ended up putting them back in our tackle boxes. So because of that, I don't think we're going to see them continue into 2024. I feel like it was a bait that there was a comeback tried to have been made and it kind of didn't go over all that well. So I feel like I probably got that more on the wrong side, but I do feel like a lot of companies tried to capitalize on creating that trend of bringing the lizards back, but I'll say I failed on that one. The second one I predicted was that we would see a lot more of the color blue in 2023. And I do feel like I did get that one right. We do see a lot of new plastics coming out that are very much along the lines of electric blue or variations of blue. But we really saw a lot of new hard baits come out in blue colors. Now, whether that's a solid blue or whether that was just having accent blue marks, there was a lot of baits out there, or there currently are a lot of baits out there, more so in 2023 than in previous years, that are capitalizing on the blue color. So I do think I got that one right. Uh, the third prediction I had made was that the hover rig would do well. Now, keep in mind, this video that I predicted was before the hover rig we had released it. I had had it in my hands. I had been using it for probably 6 months prior, but I don't believe we had come to market with it yet. But I do think I called that one right. The hover rig went over extremely well. And again, being that I've only ever gotten to see the numbers of what sells, we are very satisfied with the number in terms of we being core tackle. But I don't know compared to what other companies generally sell with the new bait, whether that's good or not, but I can tell you that it was very well received by the general public, so much so that we are now seeing a lot of other major players in the fishing industry come out with their version or exact knockoff of the hover rig. So, you know, because of that, I think it's pretty clear that that was a correct prediction on my part. And I'm very happy it was a correct prediction because really what the hover rig allowed us to do with core tackle is come out with a bunch of other variations. And I do think we will probably see a bunch more of those coming out in the not so distant future. So hopefully, maybe we'll see some of those in the trends for next year. And I'll touch more on that in just a minute. The fourth prediction was that in 2023, we would continue to see the jerk bait be reestablished as a year round bait. And that's mostly based on forward facing sonar, but I absolutely feel like we saw that throughout the year. If you look at a lot of the major tournaments that occurred, there were a lot of very high finishes by individuals fishing jerk baits year round. And again, it's primarily because of forward facing sonar, but the prediction was accurate. And I continue to think we'll probably see that moving forward into 2024. And then the last prediction had to do with that we would continue to see a evolution of micro baits in the form of soft baits as well as potentially hard baits. And absolutely, I feel like I nailed that one right. There are a lot of companies coming out now with like complete lines of micro baits. Z-Man came out with their micro baits. We're starting to see some crankbaits come out and topwater baits that are just micro versions. So I continue to think that we'll see that one, but I feel like I nailed that one right. So if I were to look at my predictions from last year, I do think I was overall pretty much on the trends for 2023. Uh, and hopefully I'll be on them again for 2024. So let's touch base on my 2024 predictions. The first one is going to be that whole micro trend continues, and a lot of that has to do with the BFS, the bait finesse systems. That's your uh, really specific bait cast gear made for your finesse presentations. That trend continues to grow. There are a lot of people that continue to move towards fishing BFS systems, but more than anything, the fact that we're starting to see a lot of major players in the industry, big companies like Abu Garcia coming out with a bait finesse reel. When you see major companies putting dollars into that specific niche BFS area, that's just going to continue to promote it and market it. So now that we've got a lot of very specialized equipment coming out, and I realize we've had specialized equipment, but there is a lot more of it coming out in 2024 or came out in the end of 2023. So because of that, we're going to continue to see it. So not only are we now seeing a lot of micro baits, both plastic and hard baits, there's a lot of very specific gear that's coming out, both rods and reels. And that's just going to be a trend that we continue to see. Now, I'm going to say for myself as a tournament angler, I don't really see the need for the BFS systems to replace a lot of what I'm doing from a spinning gear position. But there's definitely a lot of people out there that love to do it. It is very, very fun to do. And it's a great way to catch fish, a great way to present your bait. So I do think we'll see that moving forward. So that's prediction number one, micro baits and BFS systems continuing to move forward in 2024. The next trend is going to have to do with, again, hover strolling and these that whole idea of being able to take a bait, insert a jig head into the bait inside of it, and be able to fish it either as a bottom bait or it's suspended in the water column. The fact is, like I mentioned before, there are a lot of companies that are now starting to really develop baits specifically for hover strolling. So not only now are there multiple different versions of the hover rig on the market, there are a lot of companies now that are starting to design plastic baits specifically around those jig heads. So because of that, that trend's not going anywhere. It is a proven fish catcher at this point, and I continue to only see it develop because I personally believe that we've only really kind of just started to touch on that technique. Hover strolling is such a there's so much you can do with it, depending on the bait choice, the weight placement. But this whole idea of internally placed weights is just very, very much new to the marketplace. And I think you're starting to see a lot of people kind of take that hover rig idea as well as our tush idea from a core tackle standpoint and apply it across the board, not just for jig heads, but also in terms of hard baits as well as for molding plastic baits specifically designed around those jig heads. So I think you'll see that trend continue. Definitely not going anywhere, in my opinion. My third prediction is that we are going to see a ton of baits being made and produced specifically for forward-facing sonar. Now, I don't know that that's a new prediction, but this is going to be that the trend really continues and picks up speed in 2024. As much discussion as there is regarding banning forward-facing sonar and limiting it in major tournaments, I don't think you're going to see it go anywhere, at least in terms of being banned or limited at any level below professional level stuff. So from that standpoint, there's a huge market for it because it is a relatively new technique, meaning it's only been around for a handful of years, at least to the point where it's as popular as it is now. It takes a year or two to have baits designed for a new technique. And when you have that, you're starting to see a lot of those baits flooding the market now. So what I'm getting at is a lot of companies, the major companies are saying, hey, this is an opportunity. We need to develop baits specifically for forward-facing sonar. And because of that, we're starting to see a lot of those baits now come to market in 2023 and 2024. So that trend's only going to continue moving forward. I think you're going to see a lot of specific designs that are tried to enhance either the return of the forward-facing sonar unit that you're using, or they're going to be made to be utilized at specific levels within the water column, meaning they're going to be made to really excel in, say, the 5-foot mark, the 10-foot mark, the 15-foot mark as a suspended bait. There's a lot of development. A lot of this goes back kind of into that whole idea of hover strolling, which is originally as a suspended bait presentation, even though I really like it as a bottom bait as well. The point here is there's a lot of bait development going along in terms of forward-facing sonar. So I do think we're going to see a lot of baits that are pushed in that direction. Now, the fourth trend goes along with that. Whether you love it or you hate it, I think we're going to see some absolutely insane electronic setups on professional level boats this year. Not even professional level. I think you're going to see it on a lot of anglers' boats when they're trying to follow, or they're seeing how productive some of these professionals are at using these setups. So I think you're going to see individuals that have TV screens mounted on their boats. I think you're going to, like, 20 to 30-inch screens. I think you're going to see people that have not one or two transducers for forward-facing sonar, but 6, 7 potential transducers. I think you're going to see guys that are just overloaded on electronics, whether you love it or you hate it, or you think it's unfair, or you think that's over the top. I just think you're going to see it. I'm not saying I agree with it or disagree with it. I think you're going to see it. And you're going to see it for these two reasons. One, there are going to be anglers that know how to utilize that information, that technology to their advantage. And then I think you're going to have guys that are not fans of the technology, but they're trying to go so over the top that it's going to help potentially limit or ban the use of the electronics in the future, meaning they want it to be so absurd that you almost have to take it away. So I think you're going to see a little bit of both of that, but I think you're going to see some I think you're going to see some electronic riggings on boats that's ridiculous, in my opinion, like just completely over the top. So that's the fourth prediction. The fifth one kind of goes along with that, but not really. And it really just has to do with the position that we're in the economy right now. I think you're going to see a major slowdown in sales of larger items, boats, motors, potentially electronics. I just think we're going to see a major slowdown. And I'm basing this off of my personal experience right now with my boat, which is still for sale. I've had probably the least amount of interest in my used boat for this year that I've had potentially ever. So there's a lot less people out there looking to purchase a boat. And that's not just my experience. Most of the other pros I know are in a very similar situation where there's not a whole lot of interest out there. So that's one reason. The second would be, obviously, our interest rates are at huge levels. I know the turnaround on my new boat, which I've got already, was a lot faster, which tells me, and again, that's not just me, it's talking to other pros, which tells me that the boat manufacturers are most likely turning boats faster, which means they're probably not getting as many customer orders. And then lastly, I'm hearing a lot of dealers don't necessarily want to take boats in on trade if they don't have to, which means they're not selling the boat. So that's the boat market, but everything else is kind of tied to that too. I can also tell you my wife and I bought a new vehicle, which a year ago we looked at, and it was almost impossible to find them. And now that when we looked this a few months ago, it was kind of like they're not all over the place, but you could find them. So from that standpoint, boats are definitely slowing down. Cars are definitely slowing down. I think we're seeing houses slow down, at least in a lot of areas, and that's all trickle down effects. So I think you're going to see that across the board throughout a lot of the fishing industry, which may potentially have some issues in certain areas in the market. You may see some consolidation amongst companies. You may see some consolidation amongst tournament organizations. I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out. I'm hoping it's not a major economic downturn. I'm hoping we kind of level off and we'll be all right. But if we do see a major pullback, it could get pretty ugly. So I do think that could be a trend that we see in 2024, where we see more industries struggling within the more different areas within the fishing industry struggling, which is why I was saying before, if you can recognize that trend, you might be able to utilize it to your advantage to potentially really get some good deals, stock up on things that may end up going out of business at times, and therefore you've got something that maybe other people will be looking for in 2 or 3 years. Those are my predictions. We'll see how right I am. I feel like generally I've got a pretty good handle on what's going on in the industry. And I think these are things we're going to see moving forward into 2024. So let me know in the comment section, what are you guys thinking will be hot trends for 2024? Specific baits, techniques, uh, industry news. You let me know. I'd love to see what it is. This is a fun topic to discuss as we get ready to move into the new year. So thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned, new video coming out tomorrow.